Part 18. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 171. The heavenly monument is towering and majestic, and it is unknown how high it is. On it are the marks of the ultimate path of emperors and emperors from millions of years ago. The power of the sun permeates the air, and hundreds of millions of people chant and worship it. It is a celestial monument belonging to the ancient emperor of the sun. A figure, an ancient mirror, a bloody battle in the wilderness, suppressing the darkness, chaos, and uncertainty in the world. It is a monument belonging to the great emperor of the void. A green lotus shakes the eternal blue sky, standing alone, looking into the sky. It is the heavenly monument belonging to the Qing emperor. A figure stands under the cauldron of chaos, gazing at all the worlds, looking out over all the world. It is the celestial monument belonging to the human race Yetiendi. Each celestial monument is the manifestation of a period of glorious history. Even the geniuses present found traces of many emperors and emperors who had never been seen in the world. The imprint of the heavenly monument is not left by the emperors and emperors millions of years ago, but by these peerless beings in the past. The imperial path they walked has been engraved by all the ways of heaven and earth, and they are independently imprinted and engraved here. Yun Ruoxi whispered, looking at the sky monument with a brilliant light in her eyes, understanding everything. Millions of years ago, was there really such a glorious and prosperous history? The number of emperors and emperors born was far greater than now, and there were many great emperors of the human race, far more than other races. Duan Yunzheng murmured to himself. Among the emperors and emperors engraved on this heavenly monument, the number of ancient emperors of the human race is obviously more than that of other races, and they are the most glorious and prosperous. If these are really true, then in millions of years the glory of the former human race definitely exceeds the imagination of the current human race. How could the human race be so glorious millions of years ago? Prince Yuan said suddenly, his voice full of doubt and disbelief. No matter what happened millions of years ago, the glory of the past have long been buried. Today is the world of thousands of ancient races, and the glory of the human race has long passed. A peerless genius of the ancient tribe spoke indifferently, and then moved forward, intending to cross these ancient heavenly monuments and enter the great pass behind. This is a true genius of the ancient tribe. Although he is not of the blood of the ancient emperor, his own talents Henji, who single-handedly fought through an imperial road, was the one who truly reached the end of the imperial road among all races. However, when he walked to the forest of celestial monuments and prepared to cross this area, a heavenly monument next to him suddenly glowed. It was an ancient heavenly monument belonging to the Void Emperor, and it was glowing at the moment. Immediately, something unimaginable happened. A majestic figure walked out from the heavenly monument. It is difficult to see his true appearance. There is an ancient mirror rising and falling above his head. It is extremely clear. It is the Void Mirror. And the identity of the owner of this figure is naturally obvious. The Void Emperor. This statue walked out from the sky monument. The great Emperor of the Void, his true body did not move, but the void mirror above his head was trembling, sending out a blazing skylight, shooting towards this ancient race's peerless genius. Boom! The mirror shines brightly in the sky, tending to last forever. The speed is so fast that it directly pierces the chest of this peerless genius, causing him to fly backwards, with blood splattering in the sky. And the figure of the Void Emperor, after repelling the genius, fell silent again, disappeared, and returned to the sky monument. The Void Emperor has revived. Everyone was horrified, shocked by the power of the Void Emperor. No, it is not the real Void Emperor who is taking action, but the traces left by the former Void Emperor between heaven and earth, which have been engraved and branded by heaven and earth. Now they are displayed, and they are similar to our realm, not much beyond it. After a brief shock, all the geniuses calmed down and understood the truth. If the Emperor of the Void really takes action, Not to mention that genius, I am afraid that everyone present will be beaten to ashes by the aftermath of the void mirror. And now, that a peerless genius from the ancient tribe, he was only seriously injured, but his life was not in serious danger. Perhaps, this is a test before entering the final imperial pass. Only by passing the test of these past emperors and emperors' imprints can one enter the imperial pass and compete for the final qualification for enlightenment. A genius said thoughtfully. The ancient monuments standing here may not be as simple as showing the glory of the emperor and emperor millions of years ago, but a test. Only the genius who has passed the test can enter the subsequent Tianguan and take the final road to becoming an emperor. A duel with the young ancient emperor of the past. I am longing for such an opportunity. Prince Yuan's majestic appearance was completely undisturbed by the previous peerless talent of the ancient clan being beaten away. He was even a little eager to try and compete with the emperors from millions of years ago. He had never thought that 100 years ago how can the emperors and emperors of 10,000 years be more powerful than the ancient emperor of Jida today, especially the human race's Wuxi emperor and others. It may be just an exaggerated history. Now, he wants to break this myth. If he can compete with the young, if the ancient emperors win the duel, the legends and myths of these former human emperors will naturally be broken. Kill! Prince Yuan shouted angrily, with divine power all over his body, and he rushed forward. The direction he was approaching was the ancient monument where the mark of Emperor Wuxi was located. Prince Yuan was very confident and powerful, and he would choose the strongest opponent when he came up. Confirm your own truth and break the myth. Boom! When Prince Yuan approached the heavenly monument engraved with the imprint of Emperor Wuxi, the ancient heavenly monument glowed, the chaotic energy escaped, and a hazy figure projected down from the heavenly monument. That was the Emperor Wuxi when he was young in the past. He couldn't see his true appearance clearly, but he could feel the supreme and transcendent aura. He has a majestic figure, and when he comes up, he strikes out with a palm, which is extremely powerful. With one palm strike, the void collapsed, the momentum was like a rainbow, the power of the palm was even more vast and boundless, terrifying to the extreme. Only when you truly face Emperor Wuxi and confront him will you know what you are going to face. Prince Yuan undoubtedly felt it the most at this moment. At this moment, he realized that he was wrong, and how wrong he was. The young shadow of the unbelievable emperor is proud and invincible, confident and invincible. It really has an invincible demeanor. And his attacks and his ways were so powerful that they made all his opponents despair. Although that palm has not yet come, an irresistible feeling has arisen in Prince Yuan's heart involuntarily, and it is not under his control at all. Roar! Prince Yuan suppressed the fear in his heart and tried his best to fight against the enemy, but the final result was obvious. Emperor Wuxi struck down with one palm, destroying everything. No matter what methods and defenses you used, they were not enough. Prince Yuan was directly the palm flew away and blood splashed into the sky. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 172. The phantom of the young Emperor Wuxi took action and struck out with a palm, sending Prince Yuan flying backwards. Then the figure disappeared and returned to the sky monument, reappearing a glimmer of the young Emperor Wuxi's former glory. This scene made all the geniuses present feel chilled, and they even experienced the thoughts of the geniuses who were the same generation as Emperor Wuxi. This is just the trace of the Emperor Wuxi who was independently engraved by heaven and earth, not the real Emperor Wuxi in his young age. It is said that Emperor Wuxi was extremely powerful throughout his life. No matter what kind of opponents he encountered, he always pushed through them all the way without encountering any obstacles or experiencing any bloody battles. Now this scene also confirms all this. Prince Yuan has reached the end of his journey to become emperor of all clans, and he can already be regarded as the most talented person in the world. But even he is not the enemy of Emperor Wuxi. How should he go on this road? So evil? I don't believe it. In the same realm, How can one be stronger? The Emperor of Heaven sneered, indifferent, and walked forward with his head held high. He was extremely confident and felt that it was not that Emperor Wuxi was too strong, but that it was Prince Yuan's own problem. If he had stepped forward, the outcome would have been different. Seeing the Emperor of Heaven step forward, Prince Yuan healed his wounds silently, with a stern look on his face, without saying a word. Although he respected the immortal Emperor, he did not treat him the same way. Only he could feel the power of the young Emperor Wuxi. However, Prince Yuan did not. After explaining the plan to the Emperor, only by stepping forward can one truly feel the powerful and despairing feeling. The Emperor looked forward with a proud look, and did not come forward from the Wuxi Emperor like the Emperor. Okay, but chose the same path as the ancient genius before, walking from the sky monument engraved with the mark of the Void Emperor. The battle with Gzi a few years ago was always cited as a great shame in his life, but now if he can taking this opportunity to defeat the young Emperor of the Void will not only avenge the past, but also take the opportunity to suppress the morale of all the talented people. Heaven has no boundaries. The Emperor stopped shouting, raised the sword in his hand, and stepped forward with caution. Boom! The heavenly monument engraved with the mark of the Void Emperor shook, and the young Void Emperor reappeared, as simple and unpretentious as Gzi, but his attack speed was obviously faster. The void vibrated, thousands of waves roared together, and the speed was extremely fast. Prince Rao Shishan was already prepared in his heart and was on full alert, but it was still not enough. Even before he had time to react, the palm of the young Void Emperor had already hit his chest firmly. Boom, Prince! Tian roared, his chest collapsed, blood spurted from his mouth, and he flew backwards on the spot like Prince Yuan. The young Emperor of the Void did not pursue him either. He knocked the Emperor out of the range of the sky monument with one palm and then disappeared without a trace. The Emperor was extremely sad and angry. 2 times in a row, he was defeated in the same way, and he never even had a chance to fight. This feeling of being unable to use his power simply made him extremely angry. 3 people in a row have passed the level, and the 3 times in a row have the same ending. I have to say that the test before this Imperial Pass was simply despairing. Are these heavenly monuments standing here just to reflect the invincible power of the Emperor and Emperor millions of years ago? If this is the case, how did the powerful masters from millions of years ago get through here before they attained enlightenment? Yalingxiu thought about it and felt that it shouldn't be that simple. She looked solemn and moved forward carefully, choosing to rush in from the sky monument with the mark of the ruthless Emperor. Buzz! The sky monument trembled, and a woman with unparalleled grace appeared. She stepped out from the sky monument, like a fairy coming to the dust. The whole world was trembling because of her. The young ruthless Emperor could not see her face, blocked by the aura of the avenue, but he exuded an aura that looked down on the world. Looking at her with a pair of eyes, he was alone and aloof from the world. Above her head, there is a sky-swallowing magic jar emitting black light, evolving into the ruthless Emperor's unique way. Boom! The ruthless Emperor took action and pointed at Yalingxiu. The flying fairy light shone in all directions and struck with force. He did not show any mercy to Yalingxiu because she was a human or because she had the inheritance of the ruthless Emperor. There were records in the taboo chapter of Fixianju and the heaven-swallowing demon technique. Yalingxiu's eyes were bright, she was calm, and she counterattacked quickly. She was also evolving the Fixian art, using the same method to fight against the ruthless Emperor. Boom! The young ruthless Emperor faced off against Yalingxiu, and the outcome was no exception. The ruthless Emperor was the founder of Fixianju, and his power was naturally far greater than that of Yalingxiu. In the end, Yalingxiu was also beaten and flew backwards, leaving the area where the sky monument was. Although she was repulsed, Yalingxiu's eyes were still shining. Yes, I understand. The role of these heavenly monuments is not just to show the glory of the past emperors, but to allow those who come after you to observe the existence of the supreme beings and hone themselves. A sky stele is inscribed with the way of an emperor and emperor. So many sky steles stand here, inscribed with the ways of emperors and emperors, which can be understood and figured out by future generations, and even confront them. This is an incomparably huge wealth. It is a test, and it is also a great opportunity. Especially for Yelingxiu and Yunruoxi, who have the inheritance of the ancient emperor, its value is even more inestimable. Yelingxiu can always fight with ruthless people in the duel between the great emperors. He can learn the Tao and Dharma of the ruthless great emperor from the battle, so as to improve himself. Yunruoxi can also gain something from fighting the young emperor Yetian and the great emperor Wuxi. This level cannot be overcome in a short time. It requires a long period of hard work and attempts to truly pass this level. Yelingxiu sat cross-legged and began to regulate her injuries and prepare for the next level. After her, more and more geniuses understood the true meaning of this level and began to break through the level one after another to compete with the young emperors and emperors of the past. Fight and hone oneself. For all the geniuses, this is an unspeakable opportunity. But it is always more beneficial to the human race. Because among these heavenly monuments, there are many great emperors who belong to the human race, and the geniuses of the human race, and by fighting, you can realize and understand more, gain and make more progress. However, the geniuses of other races do not have such convenient conditions, and their progress is not as fast as the geniuses of the human race. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 173. In front of the final imperial pass, all the geniuses of all races gathered here, and it was difficult to make an inch of progress. But for them, nothing is more valuable than this. Every time he faced off against the young emperor and emperor a million years ago, it was better than the years of hard training they spent. Therefore, in a short period of time, the strength of all the geniuses has improved rapidly. While the geniuses were comprehending the way of the heavenly monument in front of the ultimate imperial pass and improving their own strength, Qin Mu was still wandering around in the mortal world accompanying the Empress Daokyu's little daughter. But during this period, his eyes never moved away from the road to the final emperor. Qin Mu couldn't help but smile when he saw how the geniuses were rapidly improving in strength due to the young ancient emperor brand. This heavenly monument of emperors is indeed a reward given by him to the geniuses who can reach the end of the road to be emperors of all races. Especially for many human race geniuses, this is a rare opportunity in a lifetime. After all, looking through the eternity, who can compete with all the young emperors like they are now? Totally impossible. The young prodigies of the ancient tribes also received blessings from the human race, but Qin Mu didn't care. Because this is part of his plan. With the shock points he currently possesses, there would be no problem even if he immediately promoted the human race to become the strongest race in the universe, but would that really be effective? Only by taking one step at a time, improving one's own strength, defeating other tribes, and striving for the highest position, is the true path that the human race should take. Rather than letting Qin Mu pull the plug and encourage others, he blindly creates high-end combat power for the human race. The purpose of creating the secret realm of the Emperor's ruins before was to boost the confidence of the human race and at the same time to shock the ancient clans. But now, the purpose of Megatron has been achieved, and the human race has gained a chance to breathe and develop. It is up to the human race to wake up and do the next thing. The rise of Tianjiao and the improvement of overall power, these are things that take a long time to settle and cannot be achieved overnight. And these ancient geniuses who received favors along with the geniuses of the human race are the whetstones Qin Mu prepared for these geniuses of the human race. Only hard work and fighting can create a truly strong person. Now, let's see who can have the last laugh. Time flies by, and several years pass in the blink of an eye. In the past 2 years, many geniuses who have reached the end of the imperial road are cherishing this rare opportunity to compete with the young emperors. And their realm and combat power are also increasing rapidly. The overall combat power has been upgraded to the realm of the great sage. And when he broke through the level, he was no longer as embarrassed as he was at the beginning. Although he still couldn't defeat the young ancient emperors, he could barely fight with them for a while and survive for a while. Now, no one expects to truly defeat the young ancient emperors here. Those who can leave a mark here are the true Yakuza beings of the past. Their Tao, their Dharma, has reached its most perfect state. Such people, even when they were young, were invincible in the same situation. How could they possibly win in battle? The only way is to become familiar with the ways and methods of these emperors and emperors, strive to survive for a longer period of time, and then forcefully break through the forest of heavenly monuments and reach the ultimate imperial pass behind. After several years of hard work, I already feel that I have reached my limit. With my current combat power, I should be able to break through this barrier. Ya Lingxiu said to herself, with confidence shining in her eyes. In the past few years, she has been competing against young human emperors and has made rapid progress. Especially the duel with the ruthless emperor has benefited her a lot. And now, she felt that she was almost reaching the limit. If she continued, it would not make much sense in a short time. It was time to pass through the forest of heavenly monuments and go to the next imperial level. Ya Lingxiu stood up and walked. Entering the forest of heavenly monuments, she faced off against the brand of the ancient emperor on every heavenly monument she passed along the way. When she fought forward and left the area covered by a heavenly monument, the brand of the young ancient emperor the phantom will disappear. Along the way, she first met the ruthless emperor, then fought the Qing emperor, and then fought an ancient emperor of Jidao. Finally, she left here and successfully reached the imperial pass at the rear. She pushed open the city gate and got in. Sister Lingxiu has already passed, I have to follow her. Yun Ruoxi also moved, following closely behind Ya Lingxiu. After successively passing the test of Emperor Wuxi, Emperor Yetian, and another human emperor, she also successfully crossed the forest of heavenly monuments and entered the imperial pass at the rear. And others naturally, many geniuses were not willing to be weak. Seeing that Ya Lingxiu and Yun Ruoxi had successfully broken through the barrier, they followed suit and forced their way through. Some succeeded, while others failed. Prince Yuan, Prince Tian, and several other geniuses all succeeded. Broke through. But there are still a group of geniuses who have not succeeded in breaking through, including even the children of the two ancient emperors. Strange, why didn't he come over? After the emperor successfully broke through, he looked back, only to find that the figure he had been paying attention to had not made any move, and was still sitting there silently. That figure was none other than Gzi. Since arriving here, Gzi has been silent, and apart from the sky tablet branded with the Void Emperor, she has not competed with any other ancient emperor's sky tablet brand. Is it impossible for Heimko to break through successfully? The emperor didn't believe it. After several years of hard work, I was able to successfully pass the level. How could I defeat this great enemy? Besides, the other party didn't even try. Just when the emperor was confused, Gzi finally moved. He stood up, but did not break through the barrier. Instead, he faced the other direction, and a rare look of solemnity appeared on his always calm face. At the same time, not only the heavenly prince, but also all the geniuses present who had not yet entered the imperial pass, feeling something in my heart, I looked in the same direction. That is the direction of the 5 major domains. The rays of light that penetrated the sky were blazing to the extreme, tearing apart the vast universe. Even if they were far away from the galaxy in the universe, everyone could feel the unparalleled terrifying aura. It was an extremely sacred light, with the aura of fairy spirits flowing. It was extremely grand and majestic, and the entire universe seemed to be penetrated by that eternal fairy light. This is. An ancient prince looked at all this with a look of shock on his face, as if he had thought of something. In the five realms, the immortal light soars into the sky, across the world. At this time, at this node, could it be said, that the legendary road to becoming an immortal is about to begin? Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 174. The divine light soared into the sky, penetrating the world, and was extremely brilliant. Like the boundless Milky Way falling from the nine heavens, it traverses the universe and leads directly to the direction of the five major regions and the deserted region of the Middle East. I feel the breath of the immortal realm. Yes, I once heard my father say that after hundreds of thousands of years, the road to the immortal realm will be opened again after being sealed for eternity. Chance. The ancient prince looked at the immortal light rising into the sky in the direction of the five realms and murmured. The road to becoming an immortal has been sealed for eternity. Even the supreme human beings who have reached the top of the extreme path can feel the power of the road to becoming an immortal existence. However, the immortal road is closed and the dust is locked up. No matter how magnificent you are the enlightened person in this world. It is useless to stand at the pinnacle of the human world. You still cannot break in and enter the immortal realm to fly to the immortal. After generations of extreme existences, exploration and speculation revealed that there will be a weak node on the road to immortality. This node will appear in an instant after eternity, opening up the path to immortality and giving the world's supreme being the opportunity to become an immortal. In the endless years, such an opportunity can only one. However, the existence of the Jida can only live for 2 lives at most, and there is no way to wait for such an opportunity. In desperation, these ancient emperors of the Jida who once stood at the pinnacle of the human world and aspired to become immortals had no choice but to live in their old age. Killing oneself, falling from the realm of the extreme realm, and then sealing one's body with the divine source, sleeping in the restricted area for eternity, waiting for the legendary opportunity to become an immortal. But now, this immortality deduced from the ancient emperors, the node actually appeared in the human world like this. There was no sign, it just appeared suddenly, beyond everyone's expectations. The road to immortality appears in the eastern wilderness territory among the 5 territories. Yes, let me just say that so many forbidden areas of life are actually located in the eastern wasteland. It turns out that the supreme beings in the restricted area have long guessed that the immortal road will be opened in this life, and the location will be in the eastern wasteland. A peerless genius said to himself, "The road to immortality is about to begin, how should I choose?" In front of the imperial city gate, the emperor looked at the brilliant fairy light emitting from the direction of the 5 realms with hesitation on his face. On one side was the path to enlightenment, and on the other was becoming an immortal. How should he choose? Becoming an immortal, that was an opportunity that belonged to the ancient supreme beings, not me. After pondering for a long time, the heavenly prince seemed to have figured out something. He no longer hesitated and stepped into the imperial pass in front of him. Like the heavenly prince, many other geniuses also thought clearly, although they looked towards the 5 major domains. There was still a bit of regret in his heart, but he finally focused his attention on the imperial pass in front of him. The ancient prince was right when he said that the so-called opportunity to become an immortal only belongs to those who have become enlightened, that is, today's ancient supremes. They have never grown up. They are so weak and are not worthy of attention in front of the ancient supremes. If the ancient supremes want to kill them, it is easier than crushing an ant. In this case, there are those who are the ancient supremes. With the supreme beings in the restricted area, the opportunity to become immortals will only belong to them. Who can compete with them for the qualifications to become immortals? It's impossible. It was precisely because of this that many geniuses in front of the imperial pass gave up. They want to return to the 5 realms. Compared with the illusory dream of becoming immortals, it is a better opportunity for them to realize the Tao in this world. The geniuses who can cross the forest of heavenly monuments have all entered the imperial pass. But so far they have not been able to do so. The geniuses of all races who have passed the test of the sky monument are also working hard and moving forward bravely. There is only one exception, he is GZI. GZI stands in front of the sky monument with the Emperor of the Void on it, and duels with the young Emperor of the Void. The Void Avenue of both of them can be said to have reached the state of transformation. During the fight, the power of the Void filled the air, attracting the attention of many other geniuses. There is no doubt that GZI is very strong, because he actually fought with the young Void Emperor. There were back and forth, and although he was slightly at a disadvantage, there was no possibility of defeat in a short period of time. If he rushed forward, with his superb Void Avenue, he would have no problem breaking through this forest of celestial monuments. But he only faced off against the heavenly monument brand of the Void Emperor and never moved forward at all. GZI took action silently, looking at the figure formed by the Void Emperor's brand in front of her. The look in her eyes gradually became firmer. You once told me that it is the mission of my Void lineage to suppress the turmoil in the world and bring peace to the human race. I have recovered from this life, and maybe it's time to do what I should do. GZI's voice was very calm, and then she left the coverage area of the forest of heavenly monuments, silently returning the same way she came, without even looking back. It was as if this genius of all races had spent so much effort and hardship. In his eyes, the road to the end can only be reached by all kinds of disasters. There is nothing worth cherishing at all. Eastern Wasteland. A huge crack stretching for nearly 10 million miles spans the center of the Eastern Wasteland. The earth sank, and the abyss was bottomless. Endless fairy light shot out from the crack, illuminating the world with billions of colors across the universe. And in this crack that shines with billions of immortal lights, a huge ruin can be vaguely seen. Among the ruins, there is a towering immortal stele, with 3 characters inscribed in ancient immortal inscriptions on it: Road to Immortality. The road to immortality appears, shocking the world. Billions of living beings all felt that different aura, as if they were about to become immortals. It was impressive and unforgettable. The road to immortality. This is the legendary road to immortality. Oh my God! The road to immortality actually appeared in this life. It is unimaginable. The direction of the breath is from the Eastern Wasteland. If you go to the Eastern Wasteland, you might have a chance to enter the immortal realm. Billions of living beings are boiling, and the road to immortality has begun. What does this mean? Someone will become an immortal in this life. Their lifespan is endless, and they can enter the immortal realm. This is undoubtedly what all living beings in the world dream of. And at the same time, in all major restricted areas in the Eastern Wasteland, a chaotic aura appeared, sweeping across the universe and spanning hundreds of millions of miles. The road to becoming an immortal appeared, and the ancient supreme beings in the restricted areas could not sit still and revived one after another. Sit and watch the fairy road. Big brother, what are you looking at? The little girl raised her head, her crystal-like eyes full of doubts. From the beginning, she noticed that Chinmu had been looking up in a certain direction, and there was even a smile on the corner of his mouth. Watching a big show. Chinmu lowered his head and said with a smile, a look of expectation rising in his eyes. The so-called opening of the road to becoming an immortal is just another big game laid out by Chinmu. But this time, the ones who enter the game are not the geniuses of the world, but those who the ancient supreme beings who have been hiding in the ancient restricted area for eons. Overall, the entire universe has become Chinmu's chessboard. But these ancient supreme beings who have revived because of the emergence of the road to immortality may not know their current identities. Is no longer the invincible supreme being who rules the world, but is just a chess piece in Chinmu's hands. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 175. In the eastern wasteland, all the restricted areas are no longer peaceful. The aura of the Supreme is powerful. The road to immortality is open. An ancient Supreme Being is about to be born. Deep in the eastern wasteland, there is the immortal mountain. The mountains are continuous, majestic and majestic. Each one can be called the king of mountains and the emperor of mountains, majestic to the extreme. In particular, the large black mountains standing in the center of the mountains were shrouded in thick black mist, and there was a faint coercion exuding, which was enough to frighten all living creatures in the world. Normally, this place is silent and there is no movement at all, but now it is different. Among the several black mountains, there are red lights rising into the sky, turning into dragon shapes, shaking the 9 heavens. That was the resurgence of the ancient supreme beings. After stepping out of the divine source, the blood that naturally escaped from their bodies was unparalleled in the contemporary era and soared straight into the sky. Several hazy figures, shrouded in clear light and chaotic energy, appeared on the ancient black mountains. Their power shook the sky, and there was a majestic momentum that was invincible from ancient times to the present. After waiting for so long, the road to immortality finally appears. In this life, our inference is not wrong. In this life, we can see the fairyland, live forever, gain great freedom and great liberation. I am looking forward to finally being freed from the cage of this human world, the legendary fairyland. A series of cold voices with a hint of exclamation sounded out, shaking the heaven and earth, causing thousands of Dao to roar. It was the majestic divine thoughts of ancient supreme beings, moving the 9 heavens and 10 earths. In the end, these Dao were cleared. The figures shrouded in brilliance and chaotic energy moved. They stepped out in one step, and the immortal light penetrated the 9 heavens, leading directly to the direction where the road to immortality opened. They left the restricted area in a snap and descended into the human world. The momentum of each of them was like a true extreme. The existence of the Tao is like a resurgence, which makes all souls panic and kowtow involuntarily. In fact, before Emperor Qian was born, all living beings in the world have felt this kind of momentum, but it is different now. It is not just the Emperor Qian, but also the restricted areas in the Eastern Barren Territory. Inside, there is the resurrection and rebirth of the Supreme, and the breath of the Supreme penetrates the heaven and the earth, reversing the chaos of the sky, and the magnificence are reached to the extreme. Changxian Road, here I come. The world has been corrupted and reincarnated for hundreds of generations. I buried a great world with my own hands and waited for eternity. Now I can finally see the beauty. On the road to immortality, listen to my own funeral song. One after another, figures that made the 9 heavens and 10 earth tremble came out of their respective restricted areas, descended into the world, and finally gathered at the place where the road to immortality opened. It is difficult to describe the scene at this moment, that magnificent immortal realm before the crack, the void within a radius of millions of miles turned into void. Only the endless chaotic energy was surging, almost covering everything. It was the naturally escaping breath of the supreme beings, causing chaos in the world. All living things in the world could only identify the ancient supreme beings through the majestic blood energy that runs through the heaven and earth. 15 paths of heaven reaching blood energy, oh my God, a full 15 ancient supreme beings have revived and gathered in front of the immortal road. All spirits are trembling, 15 ancient supreme beings. What is this concept? It takes tens of thousands of years to give birth to a supreme being. The 15 ancient supreme beings almost cover the entire history of millions of years later. A unique existence in this period of history. Do ants also want to become immortals? Ridiculous. A slightly indifferent sneer came. Next to the crack in the fairyland, the endless imperial aura erupted, sweeping everything. Some creatures who were lucky enough to be close to this place and wanted to seek opportunities to become immortals all had their bodies exploded and turned into nothingness. That was an ancient supreme being ruthlessly took action and wiped out everything next to the crack in the immortal realm. They had waited for hundreds of thousands of years before they had the opportunity to become immortals. Are some ants in this world trying to get involved in the immortal realm? Delusion. The cold words of the ancient supreme being, and the blood of those monks who used to have a sense of luck, but are now dead millions of miles away, make all souls in the world feel cold. Before, there were people who had the same idea and wanted to fish in troubled waters, to see if they can follow the ancient supreme beings into the immortal realm and be liberated from the world. But now it seems that it is just a delusion. These ancient supreme beings have waited for eternity for the opportunity they have now. How can they let others get involved and become immortals? Opportunity. Even some quasi-emperor realm beings in the universe who were attracted by the road to immortality are retreating rapidly at this moment, daring not to approach this place. Quasi-emperor and emperor seem to be only one word apart, but their actual strength, but there is a huge difference. If you don't enter the imperial realm, you will end up like an ant. Even a quasi-emperor is not enough in front of these supreme beings. The cracks stretching for nearly 10,000 miles are trembling, and the creatures in the 5 major domains even vaguely hear the sounds coming from it. The screams of real dragons and immortal phoenixes. The 4 spirits and all the phantoms, the visions of gods and demons are all displayed, and endless immortal energy spurts out. The ancient heavenly monument standing in the ruins trembled, the void cracked, and there was actually an ancient road filled with endless fairy spirit appears, connecting the world. It's the road to immortality. Fight in, and the road will be as fast as you can. 1,000,000 years, just this moment. Kill. At this moment, the ancient supreme beings are roaring, the laws are roaring, the heaven and the earth are trembling, and the ancient supreme beings standing in front of the cracks in the fairyland are moving. They are increasing their momentum, repairing their own Deo fruit, and moving towards the ancient path. Walking on the road to becoming an immortal. One after another, majestic figures like demons towered out of the realm and ran through the stars. They were the Dharma of heaven and earth of ancient supreme beings, a display of their boundless imperial bodies and supreme avenues. At this moment, all the supreme beings have raised everything about themselves to the extreme, embarking on the road to becoming immortals. They want to break the cage of this world and become immortals all the way. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 176. Waiting for eternity, only for this life. An ancient supreme being who walked out of the immortal mountain shouted loudly and took the lead to enter the immortal road. He was tall and covered with black armor. He was surrounded by chaos energy and was terrifying. In his hands, there was even more, holding a large halberd made of black gold with dragon patterns. The black light flows, and the blade is sharp, as if it can shatter billions of stars. The road to immortality is open. Try your best to become an immortal. The other supreme figure who walked out of the ancient restricted area also moved and stepped onto the immortal path. He was wearing an ancient Taoist robe, a purple gold crown on his head, his hair was gray, and his eyes were full of the terrifying scene of the sun, moon, stars, and stars falling. 1,000,000 years of waiting and dormant, just for this moment, my name should be left on the immortal road. Another former emperor-level strongman moved. He was sitting cross-legged on an ancient chariot, with a fairy sword across his knees, breathing fairy light. Around him, there was fairy light flying, and the terrifying realm of falling stars emerged. A terrifying scene of falling stars emerged. The ancient supreme beings and the former extreme emperors are now out to fight for the immortal road, hoping to break through the immortal road and fly to immortality all the way. Fight in. The 15 ancient supreme beings, who have been waiting for millions of years, will see their results today. Can they become immortals? If he can truly become an immortal, there is no doubt that he will break the myth. Being born in this life is both lucky and unfortunate. We can see the path to immortality, but in front of these ancient supreme beings, we all have to despair. This terrifying scene made many powerful people in the great saint realm feel cold from head to toe. These ancient supreme beings are too powerful. Even if they fall from the extreme realm now, they are like the eternal blazing sun above the 9 heavens. Compared with them, they are simply inferior to ants. You receive a shocking point of add 1245811 from the abandoned Heaven Supreme. You received shock points add 1588888 from Emperor Kun. You receive shocking points add 125,555 from the great sage Hunshan. You receive from Qin Mu glanced at the crazy rising shock points and couldn't help but sigh. The opening of the road to immortality brought such a shock to the universe. Just at this moment, the shock points he gained were almost equivalent to what he had gained in the past few years of laying the imperial path for all races. Go ahead and try it. I hope that you who know the truth will not despair. Qin Mu looked at the terrifying crack spewing out immortal light in the east wasteland and said calmly to himself. Now, except for some remaining ancient supremes who are still watching, most of the ancient supremes in almost all restricted areas have already entered that crack. On the road to immortality. However, this immortal road shaped by Qin Mu does not contain the hope of good fortune and immortality. It contains real terror and despair. Of course, if there is really a crown among these ancient supreme beings, from ancient times to the present, existences like the Wuxi Emperor and the Ruthless Emperor might really be able to break down barriers and become immortals. But, can they really do it? 15 ancient supremes entered the immortal path together, and the power of the imperial path shocked the world. The immortal light blooms, and the ancient supreme king comes to the world. They attack with all their strength, like 7 immortal monuments, impacting the immortal road, creating a grand event unprecedented in ancient and modern times, which will be recorded in the history books and immortal forever. On the immortal road, fairy lights are flying, and various terrifying laws are intertwined, crushing everything. Even if the quasi-emperor enters it, he will be strangled to pieces in an instant. Only the true ultimate existence can fight against it. This is a test on the road to becoming an immortal. The faces of all the ancient supreme beings are very calm. These tests are nothing to them and they have long expected them. To become an immortal is to act against nature. How can it be that simple? Even if you wait for the right time, you still have to pay an unparalleled price. However, after witnessing with their own eyes the peerless murderous intent that can shatter everything on the road to becoming an immortal, some powerful beings who aspire to become immortals can't help but feel discouraged and even despair. Before, they were still wondering whether they could wait for these ancient supreme beings to reach the depths of the immortal road, and then follow up to compete for the opportunity to become immortals. But now it seems that it is simply impossible. Just the terrifying murderous intention just entering the immortal road is enough to wipe them out in an instant, let alone the deeper parts of the immortal road. This road to becoming an immortal is not prepared for all sentient beings in the world at all. It was prepared for those ancient supreme beings, for those extreme beings of the past. On the road to immortality, the immortal fog is misty, making it difficult to see the creatures outside. Only the splattering blood could be vaguely seen, and various intertwined terrifying laws were in the fiercest collision with the ancient supreme beings who entered it. There are also countless flying immortal lights and shadows emerging, crisscrossing the immortal road, like feathered flying immortals, overwhelming the sky and the earth, attacking the ancient supreme being. Every flying fairy light and shadow possesses the power to destroy all living things in the world, and is specially created to stop these ancient supreme beings. The terrifying aura is turbulent, shaking the world. No one knows what happened on the road to immortality. All living beings can only know that the ancient supreme beings are trying their best to fight on the road to immortality. After a long time, everything finally calmed down. Only the fairy mist is steaming, but the Tao of the ancient supreme beings who entered it has never been manifested again, as if they have completely disappeared from this world. Did the ancient supreme being succeed? Did he really become a fairy and leave this world? All living beings are confused. They can no longer feel the aura of these ancient supreme beings, as if they have completely disappeared from this world and have really gone to the fairyland. However, just as all living beings are uneasy and doubtful, they even feel that these ancient just when the Supreme Master had succeeded in flying to immortality, the peaceful path to immortality suddenly began to vibrate again. Boom! The sound of the sky and the earth shattering was heard, the entire immortal road collapsed, and figures one after another flew out on the immortal road. Blood like red clouds is swaying between heaven and earth. They are ancient supreme beings. They failed and flew out from the immortal road, covered in blood, as if they were seriously injured. No. Is this the real ending? I am not willing to accept it. No, I don't believe it. I have already seen it, there is only one line left, only one line left. The mournful roars came from the roars of the ancient supreme beings, which shook the world and made people feel a desperate mood. There is no doubt that they failed and retreated on their way to becoming immortals. The road is not over yet. Fiction. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 177. Ahem, I won't give up until I see the immortal. An ancient supreme being coughed up blood, and his condition was extremely bad. He was glowing all over, and the light rain scattered all over the sky, like stars one after another, extremely bright and gorgeous. That was the light of transformation, and this ancient supreme being could not bear it. He already had a short lifespan, but now he tried hard to become an immortal, but failed. Instead, he suffered unimaginable changes, and his body and soul were on the verge of collapse. We have clearly seen the immortal realm, but we are still only one step away from entering it. Is this life really the real point of becoming an immortal? An ancient supreme leader sighed softly. They fought on the road to immortality, fought to the point of madness, and finally reached the end of the road, but were blocked at the last moment of becoming immortals. Of course, except for these seriously injured ancient supreme, and there are several ancient supremes who have long since exhausted their lifespan and have tried their best on the road to immortality. When they flew out on their own way to become immortals, they began to transform and dissipate between heaven and earth. But in the end, there were still 12 of them. Although the ancient supreme being was seriously injured, he still did not die. This was undoubtedly an extremely shocking and desolate scene. 15 ancient supreme beings tried their best to become immortals, but in the end, 3 of them fell, and the remaining 12 supreme beings were all injured. Flying upside down on the road to immortality, the road to immortality is hard to see. My destiny is hard, and I did not die on the road to becoming an immortal. This life, I am not willing to end here. In the immortal mountain, the ancient supreme man holding a black gold halberd with dragon patterns wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth, his eyes cold. That's right, you've been waiting for eternity just to become an immortal, but it's hard to see the immortal realm now, so how can it end here? Another ancient supreme leader coldly agreed. In fact, these 12 ancient supreme leaders who have survived the road to immortality are all the initiators of dark turmoil in the past. They once blood-bathed all the heavens and every domain. Use the blood of all spirits to replenish your body's longevity. Only in this way can you survive on the road to becoming an immortal. Otherwise, like the other 3 ancient supremes, they would have transformed and died on the spot. But even if they survived, the current state is also very bad. Only by replenishing a large amount of life energy can we survive. Otherwise, even if we seal ourselves in the divine source, we will not survive for long. For these ancient supreme beings who aspire to become immortals, for them, the only motivation to survive is to become an immortal. Now that the immortal realm has not been seen, they have been waiting for so long, how can they be willing to die now? There are too many people who share the same path, that's all. The universe is vast and they are scattered to eat. An ancient supreme master said indifferently, his body swayed, and he traveled far into the starry sky of the universe. But the content of his words made all the creatures in the 5 major domains and nearby who were attracted by the immortal road feel cold from head to toe. A sense of impending disaster. Previously, 15 ancient supreme beings were born and fought on the road to immortality, which shocked all living beings. However, they have forgotten how these ancient supreme beings who fought on the road to immortality survived after such a long time. Yes. Their survival is watered with the blood and life of all spirits. Thinking of this, all living beings and all spirits wake up like a dream. Those powerful monks did not dare to say a word, and hurriedly walked as fast as possible. They set up a teleportation formation and fled outside the territory, wanting to leave this terrifying place. However, facing these monks who were fleeing, the supreme beings who were standing in the eastern wasteland, and whose boundless bodies towered outside the territory, had expressions on their faces. Very indifferent. Ridiculous, in front of us, what's the use of escaping to the edge of the universe? The feast is about to begin, the ancient supreme being is born, and everything in the world will be rewritten. What the world calls the Dark Ages. Haha, as long as you can survive, no matter what the infamy is, everything is worth it. The ancient supreme beings all have indifferent expressions and cold words, like a wall of ancient demons stretching across the world. They make every creature's body tremble, with chills from head to toe, and the soul seems to be frozen. 12 An ancient supreme being is born and wants to launch a dark turmoil. There is no doubt that this will be the darkest turmoil in history. I don't want to die yet, so I can lend my life to you. An ancient supreme said indifferently. He raised his palm forward and towered into the 9 heavens. His imperial body was boundless and he directly crushed an ancient star of life located next to the 5 major domains into pieces. This was a wild star. It is filled with some of the most primitive lives. But now, this star has exploded, as brilliant as fireworks, extremely beautiful, but also extremely terrifying. Because the ancient star of life exploded, everything on it, all living creatures are dead, and the sea of blood is overwhelming. The breath of life is intoxicating, but it is not enough. More is needed. The ancient Supreme One opened his mouth and inhaled, and the endless life essence flew from the broken ancient star of life, pouring into his mouth like a torrent, adding a bit of blood to his face. This is too terrifying. Although an ancient star of life is only the most primitive living being, its number exceeds hundreds of millions. At this moment, all the souls in the world are chilled, as if they have seen their own end. An ancient star of life, none of the creatures on the star could satisfy one ancient supreme being. Now, there are 12 ancient supreme beings. Unparalleled darkness is coming, who can save us? Darkness, this is the real darkness. The 12 ancient supreme beings could not see any way out. I'm afraid that most of the creatures in the entire universe will be blood-bathed this time, and our human race will bear the brunt and suffer near genocide. All souls are terrified, especially as the human race with the largest number in the universe. This is really an unimaginable darkness that will sweep across the universe and swallow the lives of hundreds of millions of creatures. At this moment, who can stop these ancient supreme beings? More than one person began to pray, praying to the great Emperor Wuxi, praying to the great Emperor, praying to the heavenly Emperor and the human Emperor of the human race. I hope that these supreme beings from millions of years ago can manifest themselves and save the human race from water and fire. It's almost time. On an ancient star of life in the universe, Qin Mu said calmly to himself as he watched the scenes taking place in the direction of the 5 realms. As his voice fell over the eastern wasteland, the forbidden area of God that had not manifested in the world for a long time, reappeared in the human world. Moreover, a black iron rod with celestial light fell from the restricted area of the sky, crossing the 9 heavens. There was also a golden giant ape that reached the 9 heavens and stepped on the 9 nether worlds. It made a sound that resounded throughout the sky. The roar shook the sky. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 178. A black iron rod fell from the restricted area of the sky, and the immortal light shone for 9 days. There is also a golden ape standing upright on the sky and the earth, appearing under the black fairy gold iron rod, roaring in all directions, and the emperor's power shocks ancient and modern times. The forbidden area of God reappears. The forbidden area of the sky suddenly appeared in the sky above the eastern wasteland, making the faces of the ancient supreme beings standing in the eastern wasteland look slightly solemn. And that fairy gold iron rod that fell from the restricted area of the sky and caused boundless visions made all living beings in the world look at it. The forbidden area of God has reappeared. Could it be that the Lord of God takes action to quell this upcoming dark turmoil? It's not the Lord of Heaven, it's just a fairy gold iron rod that fell down. Such a strong fighting spirit, this is the aura belonging to the ancient emperor, not the Lord of Heaven. The light of hope that had just risen in the eyes of all spirits could not help but dim. It was not the Lord of Heaven who was taking action. This fairy gold iron rod that fell from the forbidden area of God seemed to belong to an ancient emperor in the past. In the past, the human empress fell from the restricted area of the sky and shocked the world. Does she want to repeat the scene of that day to shock us? The ancient supreme who just reached out and crushed an ancient star of life said indifferently. He was wearing a feathered green gold battle armor, with thick long hair scattered all over his head, and his boundless imperial body seemed to be able to crush the heavens and all realms. The horror reached the extreme. He is called the Lord of Reincarnation, and he is the supreme being who walked out of the reincarnation lake in an ancient restricted area. Buzz, the fairy gold iron rod fell, and there were hundreds of millions of auspicious colors, as if a supreme being was about to resurrect. That one the golden giant ape became clearer and clearer, and the aura it exuded became more and more astonishing. In the end, it was really like an ancient emperor of the extreme path came to the world. The golden figure stood tall and powerful, looking down on the heavens and all the realms. Has the road to immortality begun? Unfortunately, I missed it back then. The golden figure held the immortal gold iron rod in his hand, looked at the road to immortality that had not yet been completely closed with his golden eyes, and said calmly to himself. It turned out to be a Taoist friend from millions of years ago. Now, although there is only a remnant soul left, it is nourished with the blood of all spirits, and then sealed in the divine source. Waiting for the opening of the immortal realm, entering the immortal realm, maybe there will be another one. A chance to be reborn as an immortal. The Lord of Reincarnation said indifferently, actually extending an invitation to this suddenly appearing existence, inviting him to join in the dark turmoil, or even become a companion on their path. Become an immortal? As the Holy Emperor of Fighting, I have fought throughout the ages and transformed into a fighting immortal in the world. If there is an immortal, I would really like to compete with him. The golden ape looked at the heaven and earth, holding an immortal gold iron rod and pointing at the Lord of Samsara, as if he didn't take this ancient supreme being in his eyes at all. As for you, are you worthy of joining the same path as this emperor? After killing himself with a knife, he is no longer worthy of being emperor. When this emperor came to the world, he protected all the souls in the world. Now that he has revived, how can he allow you to bring trouble to the world and come to the outside world to fight with this emperor and kill you? The sound of the fighting holy emperor shook the heaven and the earth, causing thousands of roars and shocking sentient beings. What kind of existence is this? After a lifetime of fighting, he became a war immortal in the world, and now a trace of his remnant soul has revived, and he has to kill an ancient supreme being. Arrogant. The Lord of Reincarnation was furious, with a cold light flashing in his eyes. His true body has passed away, he is just a remnant soul from 1,000,000 years ago. How dare he go against the general trend? It's okay, I'll kill you, then kill all the souls, who can stop me? The Lord of Samsara stepped out and came to the outside of the territory to have a fight with the Holy Emperor. It's just a ray of remnant soul. The previous persuasion was just because he didn't want to waste too much unnecessary fighting power. It's not that he didn't dare to fight with him. Fight? Then come on. The Holy Emperor of Dozhan said calmly. He directly swung the immortal gold iron rod in his hand and smashed it towards the Lord of Samsara, with extreme sharpness and strength. Boom! The immortal gold iron rod swept across. The Emperor's power shocked the world, like waves hitting the sky, as if it was going to cut across the 3,000 realms, shocking the heavens and the earth, and its majestic power shocked the past and present. The eternal blue sky collapsed directly, and the fairy gold iron rod crossed the sky, shattering everything, becoming the only one, with unparalleled fighting spirit, sweeping towards the Lord of Samsara, trying to kill him. Snort. The Lord of Reincarnation snorted coldly and raised his palms to fight. At his level, he no longer has anything to fear or be afraid of. What's more, the opponent is just a remnant soul. Boom! The immortal gold iron rod collided with the Lord of Reincarnation's palm, erupting with an earth-shattering roar, which directly shattered the boundless stars in the nearby star field and turned them into cosmic dust. And the result of this blow also made the world tremble. The Lord of Samsara, who was extremely powerful, was actually swept away by the Dozhan Holy Emperor with a stick. Blood spurted from his mouth and he couldn't help but retreat, with blood dripping from his palms. What a strong offensive power! The Lord of Samsara was shocked. The Dozhan Holy Emperor's attack was too powerful and fierce, far beyond anything else, and his fighting spirit was unparalleled. He was like a fighting emperor. His offensive power was so powerful that it was difficult to fight against him. Comparable. But as an ancient supreme being, he was beaten into what he is now by the remnant soul of an ancient emperor from 1,000,000 years ago. How could the Lord of Reincarnation just let it go? He was extremely angry, displaying boundless divine power and embodying the laws of all gods. Moved the heaven and earth, turning into a giant net covering the sky, trying to restrain the Dozhan Holy Emperor. However, in the face of all this, the Dozhan Holy Emperor did not make any unnecessary movements, he just waved the fairy gold iron rod in his hand. Fierce and powerful to the extreme, really like a war immortal, attacking the world, invincible in the world. No matter you have thousands of magical powers and hundreds of millions of means, I only have one stick, which can defeat all methods and become invincible in the world. Boom! Everything was smashed to pieces with one stick, and another stick came, crushing it and smashing it directly on the armor of the Lord of Samsara. Not only did the Lord of Samsara fly backwards, but it also knocked the Jideo Immortal away. The armor made of gold was dented by the direct bombardment, cracked all over, and almost shattered. The battle has just begun, and the power of the Dozhan Holy Emperor has already been fully demonstrated. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 179. An ancient supreme being who walked out of the restricted area was now being beaten back by the immortal golden stick of the Dozhan Saint Emperor, and was in an extremely embarrassed state. All living beings couldn't help but rejoice. The power of the Dozhan Holy Emperor gave all souls a glimmer of light. Can this ancient emperor, who was unrivaled millions of years ago, stop the ancient supreme being from launching this dark turmoil, and bring peace to the world? Fighting against the Holy Emperor is indeed worthy of the word fighting. The Lord of Samsara wiped away the blood from his mouth, with a strange light shining in his eyes. Being able to advance to the realm of the extreme realm, it stands to reason that all aspects are already perfect. Whether it is offense or defense, they are almost the same, only the Tao is different. It is difficult to tell the winner. But the Dozhan Holy Emperor is different. Although it is still at the extreme realm, its offensive ability seems to have surpassed the extreme peak of the extreme realm and reached another realm. Even the supreme hard to resist. You are indeed very strong, but you are just a remnant of your soul. Do you really want to defy heaven? I am the Lord of Reincarnation, and I am in charge of reincarnation in the world. It's just the remnant soul of millions of years, let it pass away and go to reincarnation. The Lord of Reincarnation shouted, no longer covering up, sublimating to the highest level, and returning to the Supreme Emperor realm. The feathered green gold battle clothes on his body shone brightly, and a powerful wave emerged, shining brightly in the 9 heavens and 10 earths. Even before the dented area hit by the Dozhan Holy Emperor with the immortal gold iron rod was completely restored, and no trace of scars could be seen. He rose from the universe and strode forward. The aura of chaos overwhelmed his tall and majestic body. Revealing a pair of cold eyes, the eyes were deep and scary, filled with terrifying scenes of falling stars and the destruction of the sun and the moon. Behind him, a piece of Wang Yang appeared, encompassing the world, refining everything, even the stars could not. After escaping, a bright star fell down and submerged into the Wang Yang, as if it had entered reincarnation, and it would be difficult to find any trace of it in the world. The Sea of Reincarnation. This is a taboo chapter of the Imperial Way created by the Lord of Reincarnation. No matter how it exists, as long as he is sucked into the sea of samsara, everything will be wiped out and reincarnated forever. Back then, he used this forbidden technique to gain enlightenment and run rampant across the world, suppressing all realms and being respected within the universe. However, facing the Lord of Reincarnation, waiting for the terrifying attack, Dozhan Holy Emperor was very calm. The immortal golden iron rod was held by Dozhan Holy Emperor. He was not angry but powerful, covering the sky, overlooking the eternity, as if fighting immortals came to the dust. Control the reincarnation of the world? I only believe that I am invincible. The Dozhan Holy Emperor said calmly. He raised the immortal gold iron rod in his hand, and his majestic body shook. The boundless imperial body appeared, standing in the universe. And the immortal gold iron rod in his hand was fully revived, and the immortal light billion thousands of ways, I don't know how many times it has been magnified, and there are even stars flying around the stick. In my life, I have gone through thousands of tribulations and overcome all difficulties, but I only believe in the word war to create a bright world and an immortal future. The Dozhan Holy Emperor roared, and the immortal gold iron rod was as heavy as a billion June guns, sweeping across and coming towards the main force of reincarnation. The power of the Phyxian immortal was flying, and the light shone for eternity, making the entire universe tremble. Boom! When the stick fell, the universe seemed to be shattered, and the stars withered. No matter how far apart they were, all the creatures in the universe couldn't help but feel a tremor at this moment, and couldn't help but want to kneel down and worship the fluctuations. That was an unrivaled showdown between the Dozhan Holy Emperor and the Lord of Reincarnation. Samsara is defeated. There was an ancient supreme whisper that seemed to tell the outcome of this battle. The words of this ancient supreme being seemed to be supporting something. In the universe, the angry roar of the Lord of Reincarnation was heard. You actually want to completely destroy yourself and die with me. What does it mean to destroy oneself? The true self has long since passed away. Just as you said, it is just a residual soul now. During that shocking collision and duel, the Dozhan Holy Emperor calmly said, "Does it worth? Destroy everything just to go on the road with me? The path to immortality is about to open in this life, the ending we have been waiting for billions of years. Don't you want to be a fairy after all your journeys?" The Lord of Reincarnation roared unwillingly. The end of the journey to Fixianxian? You still don't understand. I only respect being invincible in this world, but in your eyes, a person with endless longevity is an immortal. But in my eyes, the only person in the world who is the most noble and the one who fights without equal is the immortal. The rich Fixian light was brilliant, and the Lord of Reincarnation was roaring, but it couldn't change anything at all. The immortal gold iron rod was smashed down again and again, making him unable to lift his head, and even losing his remaining lifespan. Slowly exhausted. In the end, the Lord of Reincarnation could no longer resist, and fell from the extreme realm of the Emperor's Deo. The immortal platform collapsed, and his body bloomed with billions of immortal lights. He couldn't bear it anymore, and was beaten to death by the Dozhan Holy Emperor. All the energy, blood, and longevity began the irreversible process of transformation. At this moment, the Holy Emperor Dozhan's body also dimmed and gradually dissipated. Only the fairy gold iron rod remained forever. After all, he was just a ray of remnant soul, not the Dozhan Holy Emperor is really here. Being able to take away the Lord of Samsara with a wisp of his remnant soul is enough to prove the power of the Dozhan Holy Emperor. Wanling couldn't help but roar with excitement, marveling at the power of the Dozhan Holy Emperor. I was even more amazed that he dragged an ancient supreme being to death and blocked part of the darkness. However, before the Lord of Samsara approached the transformation path, the slightly ethereal voice came, but it made the bodies of all spirits go cold. Dragging me along with you will change nothing. There are still 11 supreme beings alive, and the world will still be filled with blood, and hundreds of millions of creatures will lay dead. What the Lord of Reincarnation said is indeed true. He is dead, but 11 ancient supreme beings are still alive. Each of them is the source of the dark turmoil. The Dozhan Holy Emperor can take away one of the Lords of Reincarnation, but what about the remaining ancient supreme beings? Who can stop them? For a time, hundreds of millions of creatures in the universe fell into deep despair again. Fantasy, I am the big boss behind the scenes. Author, Guanyun Taoist. Chapter 180. The supreme power of the Dozhan Holy Emperor is still reverberating in this universe. But just as the Lord of Reincarnation said before his death, nothing can be changed. 11 initiators of the dark turmoil are still alive. As long as they don't die, this universe will still be blood-bathed. All souls still cannot escape the tragic ending. Fellow Taoist reincarnations cannot escape reincarnation. Haha, let's start eating. I can't wait. The Stone Emperor from the Immortal Mountain said indifferently. He reached out and grabbed it. In the eastern wasteland, the ancestral land of an ancient royal family was wiped out. From top to bottom, the royal family still has no trace of the existence of the royal ancestral realm. The power of resistance instantly exploded into a ball of blood mist, which turned into the purest life essence and was sucked into the mouth of the Stone Emperor. At this moment, these ancient supremes no longer distinguish between human races and all races. Emperor Qian, when he was born, he wanted to kill only the human race because the life essence of the human race was enough to make up for his lack of longevity. But now, there are 11 supreme beings alive, and they have to make up for it, even if it means killing all the human race in the universe. Killing them all is not enough. Therefore, all the ancient races will also suffer. However, because these ancient supreme beings who initiated the turmoil were basically the emperors of the ancient races in the past, they will try their best to absorb the life essence of the human race. Who can come to save us? O ruthless emperor, please come and save the human race. May the ruthless emperor come. Many human beings are crying and praying. Not long ago, the ruthless emperor who manifested a fairy trace, beheaded Emperor Qian, and shocked all restricted areas is undoubtedly the primary target of everyone's prayers. But now the ruthless emperor is sleeping in the ancient restricted area. Inside, the most critical transformation is taking place, and it is impossible to be born at this time. The great Emperor Wuxi. Please come, suppress all turmoil, and restore peace to the universe. The Supreme Emperor of the Void. All souls pray, please come again and fight for the human race. Human Emperor, the Lord of the human race, the dark end of the human race is coming, can you save everything from water and fire? Emperor of the Void. Please come, restore the glory of millions of years ago, and suppress all kinds of dark turmoil. The human race is crying loudly and praying. Among them, the number of human beings calling for the Great Emperor of the Void is the largest. Firstly, because the Great Emperor of the Void is the only one with bloodline in the world among all the emperors of the human race. Secondly, because the Void Emperor has been fighting to suppress the dark turmoil all his life, which is most similar to the scene at this time. And there are also a lot of people calling for the Wuxi Emperor, the Human Emperor, and the Human Celestial Emperor. At this moment, hundreds of millions of people are praying. They can only pray. The power of the ancient supreme beings has exceeded their resemblance. All living things in the world are ants. This cannot be smoothed out by numbers. The only way to survive now is to pray millions of years ago. The emperors and emperors can come and calm down all the turmoil. In the eastern wasteland, the Ji clan. The Ji clan monks all gathered together, all with heavy expressions on their faces. And Gzi, who had returned from the imperial pass, was standing here at this moment. Looking calm. There is no other way. Use my blood to awaken my father's fighting spirit to return and fight for another life to quell this turmoil. Gzi said calmly. No. I'll go, Xiaozu, you are the hope and future of my Ji family, you cannot be compromised here. Ji Changqing stopped him with a sad look on his face. Everyone in the Ji clan knows Gzi's identity. The son of the great emperor of the void can be said to be the true ancestor of the Ji clan and a living legend in the world. Now Gzi has reached thousands of people. At the end of the clan emperor pass, there is a great hope that he will be able to achieve enlightenment in this world, becoming the second emperor of the void lineage to achieve enlightenment, and becoming an eternal legend. How could he be allowed to sacrifice himself at this moment to awaken the remnant soul of the void emperor? No need to persuade me anymore, this is my mission. Only my blood works. Besides, you are the hope and future of my Ji family. The era that belongs to me has long passed, and my joys and sorrows are not here. Using my blood to bring back my father's fighting spirit is my mission in this life. Gzi smiled. Then, he stepped out into the sky. With my blood, I will summon my father's fighting spirit to come and fight for another life to put an end to the turmoil. Gzi roared, and his whole body was glowing. The void mirror emerged, hanging above his head, and was also resurrecting on its own. The imperial power was 1,000 times more powerful, and it shook the 9 heavens and 10 places. Buzz, it was like feeling that mysterious call. The coldness. And in the dead universe, an ancient coffin drifted in, surrounded by endless void formations. The ancient coffin in which the Emperor of the Void was buried came again. Click, the ancient coffin was pulled by Gzi and opened on its own. Gzi with a firm gaze, he sacrificed his own blood and sprinkled it on the void mirror and the ancient coffin, making both the ancient coffin and the void mirror shine. Stop him. An ancient supreme thought that something was not good. He didn't want anything to happen and wanted to stop it all. But it was already too late. The ancient coffin and the void mirror stained with blood were both blooming with the most dazzling light, illuminating this place. A dark world. The ancient coffin exploded completely, and a figure appeared, filled with chaotic energy, and the imperial power swept across billions of miles. The mirror of the void flew to the top of his head, with thousands of streams of light and billions of fairy lights, like the nirvana of a phoenix, or the resurrection of an immortal weapon. Endless divine chains of order emerged, directly blocking the attack of the ancient supreme. Under the void mirror, there was a silent figure. It was the Void Emperor who had revived and returned to the world again. The blood of the G family will not be shed in vain. The great Emperor of the Void stretched out his palm to protect GZI, who was almost drained of blood. Then, with the Void Mirror on his head, he simply and neatly killed the ancient Supreme Being. I am Void, and I should suppress all turmoil in the world and bless the human race forever.